It was a late summer night in the city when four friends, all of whom were avid hip-hop fans, treated themselves to a show by their favorite underground rapper, Azazel. The venue was an old abandoned hotel and was reportedly haunted by the ghosts of the former guests who were brutally murdered many years ago. But the rumor didn't bother the four friends as they were deeply immersed in the music. The show was intense and went late into the night. When it was over, the four friends decided to head back home. As they were walking through the empty and dimly lit streets of the city, they suddenly heard a strange rustling noise coming from the alleyway. With a sense of curiosity, they decided to investigate the source of the sound. As they turned the corner, they saw an eerie figure lurking in the dark. It was too dark to be certain, but it looked like some sort of wild animal. The figure suddenly turned its head towards them, and they realized with horror that it was not an animal at all, but a human, or perhaps something else entirely. The creature seemed to be transforming before their very eyes, its limbs elongating and its body contorting. Within seconds, the creature transformed into a massive werewolf. Panic set in among the four friends as they tried to run away, but the beast was too quick. In a matter of seconds, the werewolf pounced on them, and a fierce struggle ensued. One of the friends, a budding rapper named TK, managed to get away and ran as fast as he could. The other three, unfortunately, were not quite as fortunate and were brutally killed by the werewolf. TK eventually managed to find a safe place and hid there for the rest of the night. The next morning, TK contacted the police and was questioned about the events of the previous night. The police were initially skeptical of his story, but when they investigated the alleyway, they found the mutilated bodies of TK's friends, confirming his story. The police launched a massive manhunt for the werewolf but were unable to find any sign of it. TK was traumatized by the attack, and his music career was put on hold as he struggled to come to terms with what had happened. Eventually, he decided to use his experience as the inspiration for his music, crafting songs that detailed the horrors of the night he lost his friends. His once unique hip-hop style became darker and more sinister, as he experimented with a new aesthetic that blended hip-hop with elements of horror. Months went by, but there were no further sightings of the werewolf. TK became more and more obsessed with his music, and his lyrics became increasingly twisted as he delved deeper into the world of horror. Eventually, he started to get a following among the fans of horror-themed music, but his music was still relatively unknown outside of the underground scene. One night, TK was walking home from a show when he heard a familiar rustling sound coming from an alleyway. He tensed, convinced that he was about to be attacked by the werewolf again, but as he turned to run, he found himself face to face with an old woman, who had been rummaging through a bin. TK was relieved to find that he was safe, but the experience had given him an idea. What if the shape-shifting creatures didn't just take the form of werewolves? What if they could take the form of humans too? And thus began his journey into the world of shapeshifters. He felt like he had struck a gold mine. He learned that there were shapeshifters all around, not just in the city, but all over the world. They were of different kinds and could take the form of all kinds of things, be it animals or even inanimate objects. One day, TK met a shape-shifting master, who taught him the secrets of the trade. TK was fascinated by what he learned, and his interest in horror music deepened. He began experimenting with his music, blending rap with elements of horror and shapeshifter stories. People started to notice his new sound, and soon his music was being played on the airwaves. He became a sensation among the youth and was signed by a major record label that helped him promote his music worldwide. As he became more successful, so did his obsession with shapeshifters. He started collecting stories from people who claimed to have seen them and used them in his music. He even experimented with some incantation, trying to tap into the powers of shapeshifters. But the music that once saved him was now consuming him from inside. He slowly descended into darkness, and his obsession turned into madness. He became reclusive, shunning everyone around him and focusing entirely on his music. One stormy night, TK was working on his new album. The music was so dark that it almost felt like he had activated some sort of evil force. Suddenly, he saw a figure materialize in front of him. It was Azazel, the underground rapper who had inspired him to pursue music in the first place. But Azazel was not what he seemed. As TK watched in horror, the rapper began to contort and twist, transforming, just like the creature that had attacked him months before. Within seconds, Azazel had turned into a grotesque shapeshifter, a hybrid creature that was part human and part demonic entity. TK was trapped, and there was nowhere to run. He realized too late that his obsession had unleashed something dark and powerful that had taken hold of him, and now it was taking control. The shapeshifter began to dance to the rhythm of his music, casting a dark spell over TK's mind. As the music became more intense, so did the shapeshifter's transformations, and within moments, it had transformed into a swarm of tiny insects that started to crawl all over TK's body. The insects then started to penetrate his skin, slowly taking him over. TK disappeared that night, and no one ever found him. But his music lived on, inspiring a new generation of horror fans. People still talk about TK and his obsession with shapeshifters, wondering what kind of madness drove him to his untimely end. And so the legend of TK and his music endures, bringing nightmares to those brave enough to listen to it.